Amanda.
And I'm Mel.
And this is the Road Back Home podcast. Hey, Mel, how's it going?
Well, it's going. How about yourself?
I don't know if it's coming or going. So yeah, I don't know if it was last week or one of the episodes recently, we set out to talk about other people's opinions. And I had a whole outline for us and I had a handout to give. And then we kind of ended up just having pretty much a really honest, it went down a path that was very honest and for me very vulnerable in terms of the things that come up when we are at the mercy of other people's opinions. So we thought in this episode that we would go back to our original, let's say, document, the original notes, and give
and not follow them again.
So yeah, just like focusing on the fact that we do sometimes give weight to other people's opinions. We're just humans. Sometimes, we take things to heart, and ways of breaking down the problem and giving you an actual flow chart of how to process and move yourself through a situation where you are now, just reeling from the opinion of somebody else.
Let's try it.
Yeah. Okay. So I watch a lot of court TV on YouTube, like court trials and things like that. So I think I probably secretly on some other lifetime would love to be a lawyer or a barrister or something. And Dad used to say that to me. He said, you'd be a great lawyer. I'd be like, why? Because I like an argument.
Yeah, I don't think it was ever a compliment. It was meant as a compliment, was it?
Probably not. But even if you don't follow trials, you will have seen in movies or TV shows where there is a court scene and there's testimony being given, and one of the lawyers stands up and says, objection, hearsay. So let's talk about what hearsay is, right? When it comes to other people's opinions, there are two types of ways that you will come across these opinions. One of them is hearsay. Do you know what hearsay is? Why would that be an objection in a court of law?
Because it's not a fact.
Yeah, it's not a direct source. Okay. So hearsay basically is an objection in a court of law because it means that this is information which cannot be substantiated. Basically, your rumors, that's a rumor. You cannot bring a rumor into a court of law because it cannot be substantiated. Okay. So when we are kind of, whether it is blindsided or whatever we might want to call it, by somebody else's opinion, you're either going to get that opinion via hearsay, or it'll come direct from the horse's mouth. So direct feedback is like, it's exactly what it says on the tin. It's comments made explicitly to us. So some examples might be, and especially having come, through the Christmas and holiday season, and people have been back at home, coming home from college and coming blah, blah, blah. And I recently heard somebody say that, one of their kids was at a family thing, and some of the relatives were like, oh, but jeez, haven't you filled out now since you went to college?
Oh, Jesus.
Right. So they be some of the things. Like, I want to give examples of direct feedback. So when people say that, give you some kind of opinion about yourself, that is a direct example. So that is all I mean, is when it comes from the horse's mouth. And examples of that might be opinions about your weight, opinions about your body, your choice of employment, your choices in life, anything at all. So hearsay examples is what we think people are thinking or saying about us, but we don't have any direct confirmation. We might think people are saying, or else somebody said, like I remember years ago, a man coming to me and saying, people are saying this about you and that about you. I realized, of course, afterwards that I was being manipulated. You know what I mean? It was part of an ongoing thing. But I guess what I'm saying is that that's how it can come to you, is that people are saying, you know what people are saying about you, or you know what people are saying about him, or what people are saying.
I often wonder what the motive is behind, people. What is the motivation of somebody to tell another person? such and such is saying something about you. I don't know that it's always in your best interest.
Yeah, it is an interesting one to consider, consider the source, you know, consider the source. If somebody is coming to you with, carrying stories, a good one actually is, and it's one of the resources I have here for you. Dan O'Connor, he's on YouTube. Now his area is workplace communication and,
Mm.
kind of assertive communication. But one of the things he has that I will link in the handout that we are going to prepare for this episode, which people have been asking, how do I get the handout? If you are a subscriber, a free subscriber to our Substack, which is also linked in the show notes, click on that and then subscribe to our Substack, which is basically our email list. That's all it is. It's
Hmm.
free. You sign up for an email list. And every week when the episode is published, you will get an email from us at Substack that just has the episode number and the title, and it's the episode landing in your inbox. But it's also coming in the form of an email. If you scroll down to the very bottom of that correspondence, you'll see there is a horizontal line, the page break, and then claim our free resources here. So at the very end of that, you get it every single week,
Hmm.
that email. Click on that, and there is a Google Drive folder that contain all of the resources from all of the episodes. So in that resource, I'm going to link you to Dan O'Connor on Facebook, or on YouTube, a specific video.
Mm.
And he says, it's something like it's an answer. And anyway, the answer is, oh, that's interesting. Why would you say that to me? So you're just kind of like, that's a good way of starting. Well, why would you say that to me? That's
So is it
interesting.
like you're handing it back to them?
What you're doing is you're exposing, instead of, it's kind of a way of not taking the bait. Instead of engaging with what is being presented to you, you're questioning the intention of why it is being presented at all.
Which is completely unexpected, I imagine.
Yeah, and it kind of turns it around in terms of offering the other person an opportunity for a start, if it is genuine, to say, well, the reason I'm saying this is because,
Right. I'm
you
concerned
know.
for you
But
or
if there
whatever.
is
Yeah.
no thought through reason, you're going to get a bunch of, well, I'm just saying, blah, 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 blah,
Mm. Yeah.
and that can help you
Yes.
determine whether this person has a rationale, a compassionate rationale for bringing this to you. And if they have, they will know what that is because they will have thought it through.
Yes.
So you
Of
can say, oh,
course. Yeah.
so if somebody says, blah, blah, blah said you were a bitch. Oh, that's interesting. Why would you tell me that?
Oh, I love that. I would never think to say that. Why would you tell me that? I'm trying to think how I would respond to that. Well, I thought you might like to know that someone's talking shit about you.
Exactly. If you don't
And
have a
then, yeah,
response, if the
yeah,
person doesn't have a response, they haven't thought it through, and therefore
yeah,
they're coming to you impulsively.
yeah, yeah, because they're nearly thriving on it.
Well, whether they're thriving on or not, we don't know. But for a person who is coming to you with in the spirit of love and concern, and you say, oh, that's interesting. Why would you say that? Why would you tell me that? They will have a thought through, a thought out reason.
I think that a healthy person would have a thought through reason. I can imagine that it would be met with defensiveness with people too.
Yeah. And if it is, it's like, well, it sounds like you don't really know why you're telling me that. So, I don't really know what to do with that information other than just discard it,
Yeah.
you know, or, or you could just be funny and be like, objection, hearsay. And they'd be like, what? And you'd be like, sorry, I'm watching too much court TV. Anyway, how was your Christmas? Um, Now, what can happen in a situation like that is if somebody does come along and you're insecure about something. So, for example, in my situation, this is going back years and years ago, and it was my first marriage, and I was obviously things were not great. And I was insecure in my relationship. It was not a secure relationship anyway. And I remember this man sitting me down in a very kind of like concerned facade, what people are saying about yous and that this isn't going to last. And I don't remember the exact words, but it was a whole bunch of feeding my. It basically what he was telling me. It was already an insecurity in me,
Mm.
and so it had power.
Oh yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So what can happen is if what is being fed back to you reflects some kind of internal limiting belief or insecurity, it's gonna knock you. So you might have a belief going around. You might be going around all day, going, "Oh God, I'm after gaining weight. Everybody's going to know it." And if somebody comes along and says that, and you're off, that's it, and they have you.
Yeah.
That kind of go away. So we have
Mm,
to check what we are believing. Like they must all notice my weight gain, for example. That would have always been a big one for me. They must notice my weight gain, and sometimes even I didn't want people to notice my weight loss. I just don't want people to notice. I just don't want
right.
people to even, I don't
Either
want it to
way.
be a topic of conversation. Can you just let me live in my body, please?
Yeah.
So, but I had to resolve all of that in me. Or it might be things like, they're judging my food choices. So how many times in a restaurant did I wait until everybody else ordered until I ordered,
Mm,
for fear of being judged for my own choices?
mm,
Um, Another one people might have is you be silently and unconsciously thinking to yourself, everybody probably thinks I don't belong here because I'm single, or
interesting. Yeah.
yeah, or people are laughing at me, or they're laughing at me behind my back, or whatever it is that you're telling yourself. You're going
Yeah.
around with this fear. And the minute you encounter it in the outside world, it becomes triggering.
Mm,
They must be, everyone probably thinks, they're all definitions of hearsay. You're
mm.
speculating. You're speculating about what people might be thinking. Direct feedback is when people are, saying things like, "Are you going to eat
Yeah. Or the
that?"
worst is if you clear your plate in a restaurant and it could be a waiter or somebody that you're dining with says, Jesus, you did a great job on that. Fucking murder. Who
Um,
asked you? Who asked you?
our default reaction is taking it personally, and of course we're going to take it personally if it is personal, like if we have a personal issue with it, or we might get angry, defensive, or lash back out, um, or we might try to manage their perception or manage their opinion of us rather than do this process that we're going to kind of like walk you through. Can you think of anything, any time where you were kind of like worried or concerned or blindsided or shaken or triggered by other people's opinions?
I feel that the one that has probably had the greatest impact on me is a judgment around parenting.
Okay.
Um, you know, imagining in your head when you have made a choice about something that you've maybe given your kid permission to, let's say, giving your kid permission to go to a concert and they're 15 years old. And then somebody going, Jesus, yeah, you let him go at 15. And then it's kind of like, fair play to you. Now, I wouldn't be able to send my kid out now at that age, just with everything that's going on in the world. And in my brain, I'm thinking, fuck, did I think that through? Do I look irresponsible as a parent?
Mm,
Rather than sitting in my own decision
mm,
firmly and
mm,
saying, no, I did think that through. And my child is mature enough to be able to handle that. And I am ready to send him out into that environment, trusting that, he's equipped to handle with whatever comes his way. But yeah, so I'd say parenting would be one that has some leverage for me when it comes to judgment. And
mm,
then we're living in a world where, thanks to social media, we are comparing ourselves to how other parents are parenting completely, completely blind to the knowledge that Facebook parenting is not parenting, right? It's
yeah.
not, it's not the real world. We give social media so much weight when it comes to, you know, true living.
Mm,
Um, so sometimes, you'll see a post about such and such did this or did that, and you're thinking, Jesus, my kid is that age. Should my kid have done that at this stage? And that's a slightly different. I'm veering off a little bit because that's more of a, living, in a world where we're constantly comparing ourselves to other people. But the common denominator between that and, the fear of judgment is, are we confident in our choices? enough so that no matter what anybody says or does differently, we are still happy with our decision. And not only happy with it, but confident in it.
Yeah, that
You
is
know, that
such,
nothing,
yeah,
nothing can shake it. That no matter what
yeah,
I see or hear that another parent is doing with their child, I can say, good for you. However, I'm so happy that I made the decision for my kid that I made,
yes,
that it's unshakable. That's, and I'm not saying that, I am always unshakable. But
yeah,
there have definitely been times where I have, stood firm.
yeah.
Um, and it's the times, funny enough, that I've really thought it through.
There you go. So when a decision is informed, you know how it is informed. And if somebody else is making a different decision, maybe they have different information,
That's it. And they're
you
making
know?
their decision based on that.
Yeah. And that we cannot almost act internally like as if there is a right and wrong decision and I've made the wrong one. But that it is, I have assessed the situation with the information that I have, presumably that information is true to the best of my knowledge. And based on that information, I've made a decision that I'm confident with. And that is a form of opinion. It's like my opinion on this situation is informed, my decision is informed by my assessment, which is another basically word for opinion.
Mm-hmm.
It's an assessment of a situation. And I'm of the opinion that, you know, my son is cool to go, or at least he's he is he's worthy of the test.
Yeah.
I'm not making this decision with any kind of guarantee that it's not going to blow up in my face. But I love that. Yeah, the idea that you are confident in your decision. So what you're saying is that when we spend the time gathering information and making informed decisions that are assessed and thought through, well then people have less power over us when they come along with their opinions about our decisions.
Yeah. And you know what comes to mind? I have a friend, and we bounce things off each other all the time. And when things get um, stressful, or when we're dealing with a situation with our kids that is pretty intense, she always says, the four walls. It's just between the four walls in your home.
Mm,
That's all that matters. It's not the outside influences. It's not other people and what they're doing, and we should be doing that. You close down into
mm-hmm,
your four walls with what you've raised your family with. You use your own information, your own data that you've gathered over the years. What's working for you as a family may not work for the next door neighbors. And you've got to blindfold yourself, put the blinders on. Don't blindfold yourself, that could be dangerous. But put the blinders on and, make decisions for your family based on your family's set of beliefs, your
yeah.
family's set of ethics, um, and do what's right for your family, regardless of what other people are doing.
Mm,
You know,
yes.
I think about education, right? And especially since COVID, how this system does not work for every child.
Mm,
And the bravest parents are the ones who recognize that and who find other environments in which their kids can thrive because they recognize this system that society is telling us works for everyone does not work for my child.
mm,
My kid needs A, B, and C. I'm going to either go find it or I'm going to start it. You
yeah.
know, I have so much admiration for that kind of bravery and effort. It's a lot of effort as
Mm,
well
mm-hmm, yeah.
because it also teaches our kids that you know they can look beyond what is handed to us as the norm and find something that fits them or that they fit. Um, that's not necessarily that. It's not necessarily
Mm,
what the rest of the world fall into and don't have an issue with.
Mm. Do you know so much of what you're saying, like about the comparison and the exposure and, like Facebook now, it's why I'm off social media is this whole like overexposure to the supposed lives of others, you know? It's like it's such it brings out the Oliver Twist in me. It's like, driving at night and looking into other people's houses and it just
Hmm.
looking, you know what I mean? You just project.
I
You just
just wish everyone
project.
could see your face right now. This is why we need to do a video. You are literally performing. It's like performance art right now.
There was this house that I was driving by over Christmas, actually. The most gorgeous house. And I never really noticed it until this Christmas because of all the Christmas lights. And it
Mm.
was done up so beautifully. And I found myself driving past, and every time I drove past it, I was saying to myself, oh gosh, because it's a big house and they've obviously got, obviously, to see, I'm like, they must have money and blah, blah, blah. And I was kind of like wistfully, like fantasizing. I literally had an entire story in my head about what it must look like in that home,
Of course.
with zero information, you know? So there's me having an opinion about this beautiful looking house. And for all I know, it could be the most miserable place on earth. I don't know.
I have witnessed firsthand the most luxurious of homes,
Yeah.
and I have seen the loneliness and I've seen the
Yeah.
emptiness.
Yeah.
It's
And
not
we
always the
just,
case.
yeah. And we just don't know. You can never know. And then recently somebody was saying to me, somebody who had met me for the first time, but had been, kind of like following me online for a while and has taken several of my courses. So what she knows of me is, let's say, what I put out into the world. And when she met me, she was kind of like, she attributed an awful lot more success than
Yeah.
what is there. And I was like, gosh, I do that. It's one of the many reasons I came off Instagram, and the Facebook. I was never really on TikTok, but just for what my brain does. It drives me crazy, and it makes me. It go to any lengths to find ways to make me feel bad about my life and my choices.
Right.
Yeah. So hearsay, like when we say, like, I love what you said, hearsay is not a fact. It can't be used of evidence because it's not a fact. Well, do you know what else is not a fact? Everything you think. Not everything you think is a fact. So even if the opinion is residing in you, one of the things that I say all the time, when I give myself shit about, or when I find myself having a bad opinion of myself, I think to myself, well, okay, am I willing to be wrong about that? Am I willing to be
Mm.
wrong? And then sometimes I'll just fucking pray for the willingness. Other people's opinions can often reflect our internal beliefs about ourselves, which is more reason why journaling, all of this work, therapist, coach, whatever it is, like do your work, examine your life,
Hmm.
examine your choices, know why you've made the choices you have, or know why you are making the choices you have. Be confident. Exactly what you said. I am confident in my choice. Like, I'm not confident that it is the right choice. I'm just confident in the
Hmm.
process through which I made the decision. If other people's opinions have hold of you, part of like what you can't do is you can't control the fact that other people have opinions, but what you can control is your position on your choices. So we need to get more intentional about our decisions. Like for example, coming offline, one of the things like coming off social media, one of the voices in my head. Oh, that's it now. That's it now. You'll never get another client now. How are you going to promote? How are you going to? So, that somehow that opinion is out there that you have to be online,
Right.
right? And so when I meet other business people or I come across it, like I only read it last night. I don't know where I was reading. I was probably researching for some kind of, thing to do with this podcast. I think it might have been Gary V, who stresses me out anyway, but he was like, if you're not on TikTok, you're losing, you know? And so there
Yeah.
are lots of successful people out there who will say, you're a fucking idiot for not being on social media, right?
Right.
Now, if I wasn't secure in my decision to do this
Exactly
offline,
that. Yes.
I would be going around and around in circles,
Hmm.
questioning my decision, saying, should I be online? How much time would I waste doing the hokey pokey, thinking that I'm missing out because some person who apparently is successful has an opinion that you'll never make it if you're not on TikTok
Mm-hmm.
and posting. Do you know what he says, Mel? I think he says something like 7 reels a day. Like, fuck off. So I am very secure in my decisions. It's the same with drinking, with not drinking, I should say. I know
Mm-hmm.
why I don't drink, and I know I am very confident in my decisions and in my choices and in my positions on that. So people with opinions about my drinking or my sobriety really have zero fucking influence on me
Yeah.
because it feels deep and it feels authentic and it is the right choice for me.
Do you happen to have some steps? Because I know that you often bring steps to the table that are helpful to follow in kind of building, um,
I do.
your confidence around a decision.
I do. I do. Not only do I have steps and I have a flow chart. I have a visual
Ooh.
flow chart that you can use. So this idea that like building resilience, confidence in your opinion, this idea of strengthening your opinion of yourself, strengthening your sense of integrity around your decisions. This self-validation basically is crucial. And so some of the strategies for cultivating this is, like I've said, journaling, um, and really thinking things through, using prompts, asking yourself questions. And it won't be in this episode that I give you a decision-making process, but I can certainly do that in another episode. Learning how to identify and challenge your own internal prejudices. So, for example, um, like if you're feeling insecure or you feel triggered by someone else's opinion, it's to take a time out and um first of all, do I agree, or is there some part of me afraid that they're right? And if so, well then what you do is you say, let's take your example of what did that person say? God, I don't know about if I would have sent my kid to that,
Mm-hmm.
right? And if you're like, oh Jesus Christ, have I done the wrong thing? Oh, you might have a belief in there that I shouldn't have done that,
Mm-hmm.
or I shouldn't have let him go, right? So what you do is you write that down. I
Mm-hmm.
shouldn't have let him go, right? And you basically take a marker through the word shouldn't and you say, I let him go. The reasons I let him go are because
There's a
I'm,
million other scenarios now that have popped into my head just having gotten that tool from you. So you're
because,
saying that when you're making these lists, you are looking for your own truth, and that's all that matters in that.
yeah, exactly. And
Mm-hmm.
you reaffirm that choice to yourself over and over again. So, what you're doing when you do that is you're not allowing negative self beliefs or negative internalized concerns or fears. You're not allowing them to live in your head rent free and to come along for the ride and be in the background the whole time saying, I don't think you should have done that. You're saying, okay, lads, hold on, pulling up the car. Didn't realize you were in the boot. Out, out. None of you
Right,
are,
right.
yeah, that's you.
Yeah,
You are not part of the reason. You are not the reason why we're going in this direction. The reason we're going in this direction. Are we in? Are we in the car? Joe, Paddy? Yeah. Okay, we're good. Let's go. And they are the reasons that we are taking this direction, as opposed to the scary reasons why we shouldn't.
right.
Okay. So, also another one, normalize letting people be wrong about you.
Mm.
Okay. So, just like we would turn to ourselves and say, especially if we have a sticky belief that says, I'll never get this, I'm never going to get this. And if you can't see any other way or you can't turn that belief around or reframe it, what I always do is I say, okay, all right, I have been wrong about things before. Am I willing to be wrong about this too?
Right. Yes. And I love
I
that.
am
We've
willing to
spoken
be
about
wrong.
that before.
So am I willing to let other people be wrong and
Yes.
sit in the discomfort of them believing they're right? It's really scary to me anyway, to have somebody out there mad at me,
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah,
you
me
know?
too.
Because they think that, because they've interpreted something, because they have an opinion about something that, is not actually based in any kind of factual information.
Yeah, I have that also. And it's like, it feels like an injustice, is
Yes.
how it feels to me.
Yes.
Your version of me is not who I am. And I have spent countless efforts over the years that I now know are a waste of effort and no longer, partake in the game. But I've wasted so much time trying to convince, um, people who have a version of me in their story that I don't feel is true to who I am,
Mm.
to change, that character in their story. And it's
Mm.
exhausting.
Yeah. And it does. It feels like not fair. And I only had that very, very recently. I only had it where I found myself getting butthurt, as the kids say, over a situation where somebody was like picking up on a mistake that I made. And what was going on in my mind the whole time as she was kind of like communicating this to me, which is her right to do, and which she did very empathically, and was no bullshit at all. But my vulnerability in the moment, what was happening to my little person inside was like, what about all the good things I've done? Like, what about all the mistakes I
Yes.
haven't made?
Frank tells this story about Paddy, like, at home in Connemara. And he built every wall in Connemara. He built pubs, he built hotels. His building is his work is a form of art.
Mm.
And then he just fucks one sheep. And that's the only thing that people talk about or know him for. You weren't expecting that, were you? Just to let the viewers know, because you can't hear her, Amanda is silently in hysterics.
I was just wheezing into my
Uh,
microphone. If anybody did hear that, that's very funny. Yeah,
uh,
you fuck one sheep.
yeah. But now what's happening now is Frank is using that line out of context. So
I,
people are like, what? So people will be talking about, oh, I did this and I did that. And Frank says, well, and then you fuck one sheep. And they're like, excuse me? I'm sorry. You did what, sir?
oh, that's exactly it. So it's like, our ego becomes bruised, we become vulnerable. We also are fit. Like there's a primal thing happening here. It's like, I'm going to be kicked out of the tribe,
Yeah.
but also this like internalized,
Yes.
I wasn't perfect. Oh my God. Like there's a crack in my veneer. It's not
Yeah.
safe to be not perfect. And it's been a
Yes.
very interesting year for me as somebody who has only worked with myself for the last 15 years, really. I've been my
Mm.
only coworker. And to now have coworkers and a boss, let's say in my part-time job, let's say my day job, um, it has been really interesting this year to notice how very out of practice I got being around other people who are
Mm.
impacted by the days that I'm not 100%. And when that is fed back to me, that I am really taken aback. Like it's a really scary experience for me to be like, hold on. Like, don't leave me. Don't abandon me. I'm sorry. It's kind of a thing. It brings up so
Mm.
much in my vulnerability. It's not my whole experience, but I
Mm.
am aware of the insecurity of I'm not being criticized. I'm getting constructive feedback.
Mm-hmm.
But in my, 6-year-old body, that's really, really scary. And, and I will catastrophize that thing. Now, I haven't fucked a sheep or done anything of the like. You know what I mean? So as
Mm.
well, this catastrophizing of something. So let people be wrong about you. Let them even be right about you. Maybe I'm not perfect.
And that's okay.
And that's okay. And also, this is in the program, this is why we have the amends. This is why we
Mm-hmm.
have instant restitution. It's like, you know, okay, I see what happened here and I see how it impacted you. And I'm sorry. And this is how I'm going to oh, you don't have to say it, but you can silently make what's called a living amends. And it's basically like if that experience was shitty enough for you and they were right, so they're not wrong about you, if they're giving you feedback that is
Mm-hmm.
hard to take for your for own secure reasons, insecure reasons,
Mm.
even when they're right about you, you can kind of take that and say, okay, all right, I'm going to take this feedback and see, how did I contribute to this?
There is nothing more liberating than coming to the table with a liability,
Mm,
than coming to the table with owning responsibility
yes.
for somewhere that you have been told, um, I saw that, and it didn't feel good for me, and for the other person to say, and I also um, acknowledge the fact that I didn't act in a way that I wished I had. Um, you know, just that reparable kind of, like when there's an argument, let's say, and the argument happens and it might be explosive and, things are said and blah, 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 and you sit in all the things that, I mean, you sit in the resentment for the other person first, and you're like, he said that or she said that, or fuck her. But then there's that part of you that knows. It's the knowing, as
Mm,
Glennon Doyle calls it. I'm still obsessed with her book, by the way,
mm,
Untamed. But the knowing that sits in you and says, "Oh, are you gonna admit it though? Are you gonna
yeah.
admit that
Yeah.
you fucking did and said that, and it doesn't align with who you are as a person?" And when you bring that to the repair end of the conversation, and it's accepted and received, and almost, it brings a liberation into the relationship. There's just a beautiful breath of fresh air when people can come together and acknowledge, you know, where they fucked up and where they make a promise to try and do better next time. Not a guarantee, but I've acknowledged it. I see it, and I'm going to try and do better next time.
Hmm.
It's so
Yeah.
liberating.
Yeah. And thank you for the feedback. And I really appreciate, you coming to me with this. And some, I've even said at sometimes, I say, and I know that's not easy for you. I know that, the position that you're in sucks as well, because it's not fun to come to somebody and be like, I don't love that you did that.
Right. Yeah.
I really hate that. I get so like delivering feedback that isn't praise. Holy shit.
Well, I've gotten good at it because of my position in my business.
Yes.
Oh my God. I will never forget the first time I had to let an employee go.
Mm.
And it tortured me. It
Oh, I can
tortured me.
imagine.
I
Yeah.
dragged it out because I didn't want to tell somebody that, they were not a good fit for our business, even though this person had done something unacceptable. It was so
Yes.
difficult for me. However, whether it's letting someone go or, making somebody aware of something that they're doing that is out of alignment with our procedures and protocols and just how we run our business ethically, even, I realized the importance of bringing the awareness to somebody because I've seen how it can benefit not just the
Mm.
company, but everyone, the staff, the kids, when the person receives it well. And
Yeah.
it's all in
Yeah.
that exchange when it's
Yeah.
received well and acknowledged, and the person works on that and blossoms and flourishes, as does the business as well.
Yes. Yes.
It's a fabulous thing, but it is
Mm.
all like you had
Mm.
said previously, you've got to think it through. You got to think it through.
Yes.
How am I delivering this? Where is the compassion? I'm not a reprimanding boss. I don't even like to refer to myself as a boss. I don't like the term.
Mm.
I always say that I work with my staff rather than,
Mm-hmm.
they
Mm-hmm.
work for me. We work
Mm-hmm.
together.
Yes.
So when I'm approaching, I try to approach from that perspective, you know, um, just having compassion and always leading the conversation with the things that are working.
Yeah. Yeah. It is difficult not to get defensive when you're on the receiving end, and it's
Yeah.
difficult not to get frustrated when you're on the giving end. And it's a beautiful thing when it works out. That's not to say that, feelings aren't going to get hurt or vulnerabilities aren't going to be, triggered, or that, it's not going to cause some kind of resentment in you because you're remembering the time you did this and, went over and above, and then And then that one time you fucked a sheep. Um,
You're going to use that now.
yeah,
Don't use it out of context.
no, yeah. Anyway, so yeah, just normalize letting people be wrong about you, and also normalize letting people be right about you when they are coming to you with something that, if you do take it on, has the potential to grow you and shape you and guide you really, and that is for the greater good, really. Okay. So let's get to the part. So when somebody does express a negative opinion, if it is hearsay, what we do is we let it go in the trash,
Mm-hmm.
right? And if that is a mental trash bucket, great. If it is an actual bin that you have in the home, you can write it down on a post-it note, the thing that was said to you, and you can
Mm-hmm.
literally just discard it.
Give me an example now of that. Do a quick example of
Hearsay?
something that's hearsay.
Okay, so in the example where your man came to me and said, people are talking about yous that yous aren't going to last, and I'll say, oh, really? People are talking about me? Is that your opinion? No. Just telling you what people are saying. Okay, thanks very much.
Okay,
Or if
so
you're going
that
to say,
goes
oh,
in the trash.
if you could be arsed saying, oh, that's interesting. Why would you say that? And then you'll get a bunch of, oh, well, I'm just worried about you. You'll get a bunch of gaslighting. If you get a bunch of gaslighting, you say, okay, well, thank you. I don't really have anything to say about it, and I've no use for that unless I hear it from, the horse's mouth. So, yeah.
And I have asked people who are bringing stories like that, particularly of a situation that they know has triggered me in the past. I have asked for no further information about that.
Yeah.
I've basically said, I prefer not to know. I just prefer not to know. If that person
Yeah.
has, beef with me and they're saying something and you're hearing it, I would prefer not to know. Because
Yeah.
sometimes I do prefer not to know.
There you go. Just say,
I can't do anything about it anyway. So,
yeah.
telling me is only affecting my day.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So you can just say whatever. But the point being that no matter where you go with it, what you're not doing is that you're not going to like take it on as anything that you need to do.
Yeah.
So I'm going to show you the flow chart here so that you can see it. Step one, what we do first of all, here's the framework for responding. And this empowers you to stay centered while addressing the comment. Step one, pause and process. Take a moment to acknowledge how the comment made you feel without reaction. Okay. So this
Okay.
pause allows you to regain control over your thoughts and your emotions. So an inner thought might be, okay, well, that stings. What am I making this mean? I'm making that mean that I'm a bad mom,
I'm a badass mom. So I don't believe that.
right? There you go. And then
Yeah.
you write down, here's what I'm thinking now. I'm a bad mom, right? And you can then you just work on upgrading that sentence to something that feels better or at least feels neutral. So you could say, I'm a bad mom. Next line is, I'm a badass mom. Next line
Yeah.
could be, I'm a mom.
Mm-hmm.
It's literally like, that's just it. I'm a mom. I never said I was the mother. I never said I was the correct, never gets anything wrong mother.
Right.
I never said I was the perfect mother. I'm a
Yeah.
mother. I'm a mother like every other mother, just trying to fucking mother out here, motherfuckers.
And that is exactly where I would like, that to go from
Yeah,
what someone is saying down to, I'm a mother doing my best with my
yeah,
kids, period. The end. Give myself grace and compassion.
yeah. There you go. So what we do is, you figure that out. Like, what am I making it mean? And then reframe the comment. So does the comment reflect something about you or more about them? So often negative opinions come from someone else's own projections. So, like the example I gave before about being fat shamed by my friend, like that comment, do I even need to reframe that comment? Like, can I even reframe that comment? Or, somebody's like, what is his intent here? What is this person's intent? And and that's where that question, oh, that's interesting. Why would you say that? What's your intention? Oh, I'm just telling you what other people want to say. Yeah, but why? Oh, because I thought you should know, but why?
Yeah, you see, that
She
feels
could be arsed.
confrontational. That
Well,
that
it
feels
is.
confrontational. Yeah.
It is confrontational, but I guess what it is doing is it's demonstrating that when you push, just like you're pushing with yourself, you see that there's no substance behind the fucking argument.
Right.
And so you're just drilling down, whether it's to you or to someone else. Yeah, but why? But why? And so what does that mean? So?
Mhm.
And all you're doing now, you're not going to carry on like that. You're not going to be like that in
Right.
someone's face going, so, but in your mind, you can practice that as a thought experiment. Dig deep, dig underneath this. Is this just like smoke and mirrors, or is there actual substance beneath this that I could take on board? Is there any wisdom here?
Mm.
Anyway, so that's, you take that moment to figure out what am I making this mean? And work on reframing that. Okay. Now, you don't have to accept or agree with anybody else's opinion, but how you respond does depend um, on the context. So let me show you this
Ah!
opinion.
I'm laughing because there is a picture of a dog pooping. Someone's dog shit opinion.
Hmm. And then the arrow flows down, and there we are taking a breath. See, she's
Okay.
inhaling. She's just taking that moment to say, "Oh, what's coming up in me?" And you kind of like just park that in your little self-care, your little journaling exercise later on. You say, "Oh, that's bringing up
Mm.
something for me." So you park that's something to investigate myself later. But first of all, you say, "Okay, this did I hear that directly? Is that direct feedback? No, trash.
Hmm.
Delete whatever you have to do." Did I directly hear? So is it direct feedback? Yes. And the next question I have is, do you know this person? Is this somebody you know? And if the answer is no, trash.
Gone.
Yeah, gone. Right. Now, but if I do know them, then the next question I'm going to ask, are they a marble jar friend? And what this means is, and on this resource, this download, there is a link to a talk by Brené Brown, and she talks about the acronym BRAVING. And BRAVING
Mm.
are
Yeah.
BRAVING. It is 7 kind of like, um, what would you say, measures of a person who is the kind of person worth hearing an opinion from,
Yes. Marble jar
right?
friend.
They respect your boundaries. They are reliable. Um, they are accountable. The vault is like they are confident,
Mm.
that you can confide in them. They have integrity.
Integrity is the eye. Yeah.
There is the non-judgment that comes with it, and the good
Grace.
intent.
Oh, I thought it was grace.
Well, it could be, you can have it whatever, but the good intent, or the assumption of good intent in you, the assumption of goodness. So in other words, they're coming to you with something, but they have not judged you or condemned you as a person for it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So all of those things. So I love having a kind of a formula where I can run down through something. If I'm not sure about a person, I'll say, well, hold on, let me see. Do they pass the marble jar test?
Yeah.
And if they pass the marble jar test, well, then we go on. If they don't pass the marble jar test, bin it.
Hmm.
So now we have heard them say it. We do know them, but they have not passed the marble jar test, and so bin it.
Yeah.
If they do pass the marble jar test, now we're down into affirming your values. So this is giving yourself the compassion and the empathy and saying, well, I may have fucked a sheep, but my walls, my work is legit, kind of a thing, or,
Mm.
or whatever it is. Okay, I fucked up. Um, but it does not define me, kind of a thing. You can choose your response, and your 3 options for choosing your response is you can ignore it and move on, even if they're a marble jar friend. Sometimes marble jar friends have bad days, and they might unleash an opinion that stings, and you can ignore it and move on. You can literally just give someone the grace of letting it go, and let them just let them have an opinion that you don't agree with.
Right.
Even if
And choose not to engage, not to use your energy.
yeah. Yeah.
Hmm.
And you could either just say nothing and let it go, or you could say, I don't agree. I disagree, or whatever, but not all opinions need acknowledgement. Or the one that I go back to all the time. Interesting. That's interesting. Yeah. That's a response I have. That's like a word I use when I feel compelled to open my mouth and say something, but I don't want to
Right.
say anything. But I
Mm.
don't want to get in the argument. I'll just be like, oh yeah, there's my word. Interesting. Because it means I've responded, but I've said fuck all.
Or you could just say, cunt.
Okay. So you can either ignore it and move on, Or you can clarify if you're in the position and if it is, the circumstances allow.
Now, I would ask that
Yeah,
if I wanted to maybe learn from it, if I wanted,
yeah,
if I genuinely thought, fuck, I didn't realize I was being rude there. I would like more information on that.
yeah. This is the kind of thing I reckon that you and me would probably do. If one of us said
Yeah.
something, we might say, tell me what you mean by that.
Actually, I witnessed this the other day. I
Yeah,
was sitting with two sisters and they were
yeah,
having a conversation about a family member. And
yeah,
one said something, along the lines of, well, this family member doesn't give you as much shit as they give me. And one of the girls went, hmm, what do you mean by that? And when she said that, I immediately went, oh my God, is this going to be an argument? And it
yeah,
totally wasn't because they've such a healthy relationship. The other one went, well, I mean, because you're the favorite. And then she went, oh, yeah, yeah, you're right. And I was like, oh, Jesus, because I heard confrontation, but it wasn't
yes,
because I'm just not used to, you know, feeling confident around asking someone to clarify something without it being confrontational.
yes,
It
exactly.
was really,
And
it was good to watch.
yeah, and it's not everyone that we can. So like we have a relationship, and I have lots of women in my life, and so do you, that we do. Like there's plenty of people in my life that I would not, because they're not marble jar friends,
Yeah.
and I'm just not going to go to them with my vulnerability and say, tell me more about that. I'm interested, I'm interested in here. Like it stings and I'm a little
Mm-hmm.
bit taken aback,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm also curious to hear more. Or you could even say, I really love to hear more about that, but right now it's just like it's a bit, it's just landing a bit tender. So can we
Yes.
check
Put a
in
pin in it
later
for
about
now.
that?
Check in
Yeah.
later.
So the
I
clarification doesn't have to come now.
yes.
And then the final one is set boundaries. So if a marble jar friend says something to you, it might be in the most innocent thing where it happened to me, where somebody said something to me, offered me something at a time when it just wasn't the right way to, it wasn't the right thing to offer me in the moment. I was offered kind of, it was, it just wasn't right, what I
Yeah.
needed. And so I set a boundary and I said, you know, I know you want the best for me, but that's not helpful. And
Yes.
and could you hold a vision of me like healthy and well instead, happy and all of that? So that boundary, or I don't find comments about my appearance helpful, or other people's like I really don't like talking about people's weight, or I really don't like talking about people when they're not here, or whatever. That's a boundary.
Yes. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
there are three
I've definitely
options:
done. I've done
ignore and
that
move
one.
on. Yeah,
Yeah.
you either ignore and move on, you ask for clarification, or you set boundaries.
Mm-hmm.
Or you could ask for clarification and set boundaries. But that is the process. Basically, what you're doing in the beginning is you hear the opinion, you check in with yourself, you park what needs to be sorted in you to the side, and you come back to that later. What was triggered in me there that needs to be put right? That
Mm-hmm.
needs to be made secure in me so that it's not a vulnerability. And then after you do that, you go through do I know this person? Or sorry, did I hear this come from the horse's mouth? Do I know the horse? um, and are they a marble jar horse? And if they are, then you proceed with your responses. And
Wow.
that's it. That
I
is
like
it.
that. And I'm excited for our listener to look at that chart because for me, I'm such a visual person.
Yeah.
I love the visual of that and just kind of following down with the arrows, bin, bin, bin,
Yes.
marble jar, ask
Hmm.
questions.
Yeah,
I love it.
exactly. That is what that is. I'm going to have more resources there. We'll have the marble jar and talk from Brené Brown. And I think I have something else. Yes, I have mirror work as well. That's another way of affirming your own self,
Mm-hmm.
because that's what, at the end of the day, that's what this is about. Nobody really your opinion of you really is most important. It's crucial, at least.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
work on it. And yeah, that's what we set out to offer today.
Another invaluable resource.
Yes, hopefully. So, what we were saying last week, we will end this week by asking you once again to help us get the word out about this podcast. We have some really exciting things coming up to announce. We will announce them very, very soon. A lot of exciting things coming down the road, and we really would like your help in helping us grow our listenership. If you find these conversations valuable, please do tell a friend. Share this episode or any episode you find helpful with 1, 2, 3 friends. Get the word out. Maybe throw up a story on Instagram with a link to the podcast. All of those things. The more we grow, the more we can offer you, remembering always that your happiness and your well-being is a gift to others. On that note, we'll see you next week.
See you next week.
Bye.